Well, tonight on PM Express, another exclusive looking at COVID-19 and the 2020 elections. A one-on-one with Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, a recording that will fascinate you in terms of what he's been saying. He's been embroiled, as you know, in a war of words with the Electoral Commission over the compilation of the voters' register. Now, he's also been saying a lot of very controversial things, possibly the harshest critic of the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, among the flock in parliament from the NDC side. This is something that he says, and you hear him explain this, and I push him on this in this interview that you're just about to watch. He says President Akufo-Addo will be remembered as Ghana's worst president who bloated the public purse with the largest size of government over ever, and the largest public debt of 230 billion cedis from 120 billion cedis inherited. He did not stop there. He also claims that the president is also superintending over the largest Supreme Court and judicial appointments and the largest travel budget as well. This is all according to Haruna Idrisu there. So how does he defend these controversial claims? And what about his views on the NDC and its chances in the December polls? You want to stay with us for that, because after the break, I will introduce my guest and we'll get into some of these vexed matters and the positions that he's held on them right here on PM Express. Stay with us. Thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express. My guest tonight is Haruna Idrisu. He is the minority leader and he has a lot on his plate. When it comes to the House, he has more than 100 members of parliament. All of them look up to him. It's a daunting place to be, but he's held that fort for a long time, and you're going into another elections, and they still look up to him. I'm grateful, honorable, that you are joining us on PM Express.
Thank you, Evans. Good to see you with your team. It's the most humbling but equally challenging experience to lead the opposition in Parliament.
And you're still very young.
From Parliament. But I'm beginning to see traces of grey in my hair. So it means that
in the bald.
a lot of thinking is going
happening,
in there.
Yes.
And it's been my most humbling but challenging experience.
You know what fascinates me when I look at you? I still remember your days at Nukes. I was still a toddler by then, but I still remember your days at the youth and at Nukes. And then I see the transformation. As I grew up, you also grow. And now we sit here and you are a minority leader. That gives a lot of courage for young men who may be struggling out there as student leaders who think the future is as bleak. You obviously shows it's not.
Yeah, thanks to Allah for his grace of wisdom, grace of good health, and support of the people of Tamale South in particular been overwhelming, very loyal and religious in terms of their support for the Haruna success and Haruna Member of Parliament story. And I have a united minority caucus behind me, very solid and resolute in their thought and in their support for us to provide constructive criticisms of the ruling government and to provide an alternative and position ourselves as an alternative government. Now our primary determination is to support Excellency John Dramani Mahama to win the 2020 crucial presidential and parliamentary elections. And we think that the grounds are fertile enough and it will be driven by many considerations.
Some of the factors we'll go into. Let's start with Parliament just resumed. Are you comfortable returning and feel safe returning to Parliament in the midst of COVID-19? COVID-19 seems to be an issue for you now that you return to Parliament.
As I look at the agenda and look at the business even for today, I'm not convinced that we've been recalled because of any national emergency or any matter of public interest. The business before us I have not seen a truly urgent business that requires Parliament to be recalled. But naturally, if there was no COVID, we would have been on holidays. So my view was that Parliament could even come next week so that we end Ramadan, we spend a number of time as MPs with our constituents, educate them on COVID and other bills that have come before Parliament and prepare for the 2020 elections, but essentially focus our attention on how do we collectively contain COVID-19. We've gone beyond impositions and restrictions, and my idea and advice to the President, I'm not a fan of the Impositions and Restrictions Act. That amounts to Parliament borrowing its mandate and power to the President to exercise on behalf of Parliament. I understand that the CDD have just issued a statement, and that has been my primary position from day one, that the President could have invoked Article 131 of the Constitution, impose a state of emergency, come to Parliament as and when is necessary to justify any action, because the rights guaranteed under Article 14 of our Constitution up to 19 remain important constitutional rights that Ghanaians have earned. And they earn it not just by virtue of the Constitution, but because they are humans and deserve to be respected that particular way. Particularly globally, there are failures, and there are failures by world leaders in the way and manner they have handled COVID. And President Nana Addo Dankwa cannot escape some blame and some criticism. It could be better. Probably our borders could have been closed much more earlier. Our health institutions could have been prepared much more earlier adequately to engage in testing, tracking, monitoring, and isolation, as have been argued. I do not think that the country was that prepared when we got a first count of it. Somewhere in March, when the impositions were in place. Now, to what extent has the President respected medical and scientific experts' advice on this matter? I think that he's been found wanting on many counts, because expert opinion, particularly medical opinion, in this matter is significant. And I want to believe that in most instances, he attempted to water down that particular
Specifically,
advice.
which areas
now,
are of concern to you?
Why will you impose restrictions or a lockdown when your numbers are just around 300? And why will you be lifting it when you have 5,300? It's an irony of a case.
They've explained that. Their position is that it is a lockdown that allowed us to do enhanced contact tracing and testing, which then, obviously, if you're testing more, you find more cases.
What's the consequence of contact tracing? To reduce the number of infections and to reduce the number of cases. If you are not achieving the ultimate, which is reduce significantly the number of COVID infections, then we're heading towards a failure. To that extent, that must guide whatever action you are taking in respect of isolation and lockdown. Not because you just mark yourself that contact tracing was helpful. Is that your ultimate aim? Was that the sole objective? No. The primary objective is to safeguard the health and safety of our citizens in the face of a global pandemic, an unknown foe. We certainly will be praying that the world is able to discover a vaccine and it made available to the world. There is now debate about the new normal. Life will never be the same for many countries, for many economies, and for many citizens.
Why is it that the youth still almost see you as, I don't want to use the word messiah, but it's something close to that?
Certainly
in
not.
Your constituency?
Certainly not. I've just been lucky with God's grace to find acceptance. My politics largely in Tamale is driven by two things: visibility and credibility. I'm very visible. You see me in town. I don't have a problem riding a bicycle or a motorbike. I don't have a problem walking. And I visit them at home. If you take my constituency, for example, virtually every chairman and executive member of my constituency, I know him and know where he lives, most of them. And I'm able to drive through, spend some time in the evening to appreciate the issues. Now, it's not every time you are able to resolve the problems that you can. For instance, I just give you, going into 2020 elections, my headache have been one of a major road. The road just where the Tesek is, the road Kobulmago, Vitim Kobulmago Road. I mean, if you drive on that road, you'll be mad at the member of parliament and by extension mad at government. The people in that area just cannot understand why Haruna cannot fix that road. But a contractor can only go to the road if he has approval of government to do the road to be paid.
Well, that road, what you were
I'm working on it.
You're in cabinet when this road was still there. Why couldn't you fix it?
You cannot fix every problem. Sometimes the contractors work, they don't get paid, they don't get paid early. The road gets deteriorated again. It has to be fixed even before they are paid. That's cost to the state. It's a matter that we should look off at a national level. The durability of our roads, investment in our roads. How much should it cost us to undertake a 1 kilometer tarred or asphalt road? We need to have some discussion in order to ensure value for money. That's why I say we've all contributed to a role conflict. But understandably, I need to assure them that I will advocate and lobby to get development projects to the constituency. But there is a general lack of understanding and appreciation of what an MP does.
I want to take a quick break. When I return, I'll get his thoughts on the EC's desire to compile a new voters register, the constitutional instrument, which is still gathering the days. In fact, from Tuesday, it started counting again towards the 21 days that it requires to fully mature. We'll get his view on that. And then we'll talk a bit more about the NDC, the campaign for re-election, his own aspirations as a member of parliament and as a politician. You want to stay with us for that. Thanks for staying with us here on PM Express. My guest is still Haruna Idrisu. He is the minority leader. Still on the COVID-19, there was a statement, there was a press release that there's a press conference that you recently addressed, and you were critical of the president in the way he's handled. In fact, in this interview, you mentioned that he hasn't listened always to the advice of a scientist. You said in that press release, quote, misuse of such terms, and this was talking about when they said it had peaked. Misuse of such terms without empirical basis appeared to be designed to fit into a certain narrative ahead of the president's next broadcast. It appears to be part of a strategy to create an atmosphere of normalcy in the lead to the next presidential broadcast. And you end by saying, evidently, President Akufo-Addo seems more interested in his re-election than in the safety and life of Ghanaians. That fact keeps unfolding. It turns out,
when you have a president who comes to address
when he addressed that Sunday, he never lifted the remaining restrictions.
When you have a president who comes to address the country on COVID and is willing to announce that 88 hospitals, what's the direct impact of 88 hospitals not conceived even in a budget, not approved in a budget, got to do with dealing with a national emergency of a pandemic of COVID? So that tells you he is interested in political re-election. Be assured that I'll build a clinic or so, or a district, a cheap compound, or a hospital. Give me your vote.
He's thinking
essentially
post-COVID.
No, good. Wait until beyond COVID. then you can discuss these matters. In any case, in the 2020 budget, and even before budget, you came to Parliament for approval to build hospitals. And we gave you all the support because we need to get our health infrastructure in place. Resilient infrastructure, capacity to contain COVID and other ailments. And Evans, one of the dangers quietly going on in this country, and I'm urging you to take particular interest in it for the quiet people of Ghana, is the abandonment of other ailments in pursuit of COVID. Go to Kolebu, go to Konfanochi, go to Tamale Teaching Hospital. You would see a sudden neglect of other persons who are critically ill, requiring attention. And some naturally are dying off quietly because their focus is on COVID. We don't do that.
Which is what is also happening in other jurisdictions as well.
Many other jurisdictions. But I'm saying take the Ghana example seriously. When you go to the medical surgical block at Kolebu, they were just not ready because the beds were taken away, facilities were taken away in the name of COVID.
But isn't that why we need 88 more hospitals in the future, anticipating another pandemic?
And I'm saying wait for that future. You don't do. No,
aren't we struggling now because we waited for the future and not planned?
You see, then it becomes a matter of grand deception when you haven't provided for it in your budget and you go announcing it. Let the Ghanaian people take you seriously. Candor.
But preparation for the future, I'm sure you admit, it's absolutely critical. Even in the midst of the crisis.
We need hospitals, and we support government to build hospitals. But the timing, in my view, is inappropriate. Now, we need to deal with COVID as if we are dealing with it in a fog of war. A new disease that has never been seen, never known, no cure, no vaccine inside. The president needs to keep the country together. And one of my problems have been that if you go and set up a trust fund, look at the composition. Is it national in character? My view is no. It's not sufficiently reflecting our values and representation of our people. Now remember, he had to smartly inaugurate it on a Sunday, then hurriedly come to Parliament with a bill of a trust fund. Our Constitution frowns on retroactive legislation. So it was a size to fit all trust fund. Do a law, let it suit my purpose, as I inaugurated on Sunday.
Not questioning integrity of rules on the board, are you?
No, Justice Sophia Akufo, I have enormous respect for it. But you see, I'm saying that the president must do things right. Come to Parliament, get the bill, get it institutionalized, inaugurate it. You don't turn the walking stick as he did. He was walking with the walking stick. What should be down, up, and what should be up, down. That's what he did in that. And then two, you've seen the mad rush of public institutions rushing to contribute to a private trust fund. That is not right. For instance, whether Parliament, National Health Insurance, SNIT, and others. When did you make budgetary provision and appropriation to support COVID? Because at the time of your budget approval, COVID was not anticipated. So it's worrying when you want people wanting to please the president, institutional heads wanting to please the president. That is wrong. If you wanted us to appropriate, the president should have just said that I need public funds to deal with COVID, and we'll give him the support and approval to do that. But you don't set up anticipating, and then when we raise issues, you say we should go to object of the fund. You may as well have said that I want to fund COVID with public money, and come to Parliament, we'll give you approval. For instance, the Minister for Finance was in Parliament to transfer 219 million US dollars, which works out almost to 1 billion Ghana cedis, into the contingency fund from the stabilization fund. Read Article 177(1) and 2 well. You know, MPP, they can be very interesting. They do convenient practice of the law and the Constitution. When it suits them, I mean, they go to quote only Article 177(1), that the Finance Committee has the authority. Beyond the authority, what does Article 177(2) say? It says that as soon as possible, As soon as you do the transfer from the contingency fund, come to Parliament with a supplementary estimate. Now we are being told to wait for media review. No, you are spending from contingency. Indeed, if I were an advisor to President Nana Addo Dankwa, I would not have advised him to come under Article 1771. He probably could have even borrowed that money, because under COVID, 1772 requires that he gives us an elaborate plan. It's as if it's an impress to pay back. Can he pay back? He cannot. So probably you should have borrowed and then say that you are using that money to service that particular debt. Then two, there is a national crisis. All of us are silent and quiet about the informal sector. Government is concerned about public workers, frontline workers, even the military and the security agencies that did so well in locking us down and enforcing the impositions and restrictions when it were not catered for when they were giving allowances for frontline workers. You need to expand it. But beyond that, a shoemaker who survives daily, and a watch seller who survives daily, and an anchor seller or quadri seller who survives daily, government must have a package to reach out to the informal sector, targeting small, medium enterprises. And Evans, my worry, Nana Addo Dankwa and his ministers should stop dissipating public resources as if they were private resources or resources of the New Patriotic Party. I mean, when you take this money, let us know who are the beneficiaries. It should go beyond MPP businesses and MPP businessmen.
Are you alleging that
yes,
the funds are going to MPP businesses?
It should go to Ghanaian businesses. I will soon come out with an expose on Ghana Exim and how much they have spent their money over the period and who have benefited from it. It should be Ghanaian businesses, not MPP businesses. You see,
so this is in reference to Exim, not the COVID-19 funds.
COVID. We need to know how the money has been spent. They are not reporting. If you went to IMF to ask for 1 billion, you probably would have given them a paper that this is how I intend to spend the 1 billion. You come to the Parliament of Ghana without that breakdown. What do you take us for?
But they haven't spent any money yet.
They have. The 1 billion, go and ask. They have. Not just
the 600 million
from
that is now just been launched by the president.
If you took 280 million to feed Ghanaians and you are feeding at 2 million a day, how many days did you feed? What happened to the 280 million? We must ask questions. I think that a potential candidate for a good audit is COVID-19 and its expenditure. The $1,219 million contingency released to them, the additional 1 billion from the IMF. The only item that the Minister for Finance came clear on was electricity. He said he would set aside some $200 million of it is equivalent in cities for that purpose. The rest of the 800 million, he came with that wholesale word, budget support. What of the budget are you supporting with that money? So we are demanding more transparency and accountability. In the lack of the evidence,
yes, the MPP will challenge you and say, this claim that funds set for COVID-19 may be going to MPP companies.
No, get me right. I'm saying that don't dissipate and don't distribute state resources as if they were party resources.
And the basis of the admonition is?
Every Ghanaian is entitled to the benefit of the COVID funds, be him MPP or NDC. Until you give me evidence to the contrary, this is my assumption. But
that is a dangerous assumption.
No, it is not. That is why I related to the character of Exim and who is getting funding and support from Exim.
But you are alleging you must prove.
No, and I say, as and when I finish my probe, I will come forward and share with the Ghanaian people. COVID, you heard them saying 600 million SME from the NBSSI. Nothing has happened yet. Yet hotels, workers, people who work in hotels, they have no life again. They have no income again. How are we reaching out to support them? Lockdown affects it. You just heard me on the floor of Parliament. There cannot be a trade-off between health safety of our citizens and the recovery of the economy. There cannot be a trade-off. We need to deal with the emergency as if is a matter of a fog of war, an unknown foe.
I'm going to take another break. When we return, we'll do the politics. You want to stay with us for that? Thank you for staying with us on PM Express. My guest is still Haruna Idrisu. Mr. Idrisu, the constitutional instrument that will empower the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register is counting the days. In fact, as Parliament has resumed, it's begun to count again. Do you concede this is a lost fight in an attempt to get the EC to stop what you believe is not in the interest of this country, not to compile a new voters register?
You stop a law legitimately. Nobody has a problem with the mandate of the Electoral Commission. We recognize their mandate provided for under Article 45 of the 1992 Constitution. They have a duty to revise and compile a voter register. As we speak, there is a voter register. What register gave birth to Nana Addo Dankwa as President of Ghana? There was a register. With all its inadequacies, it produced a president. It produced 275 members of parliament. It produced additional regions. It produced assemblymen. I heard the chairperson of the Electoral Commission at a committee sitting of the Special Budget Committee in an answer to a question posed by the Honorable Ahmed that the register was good enough, unquote. Those are her words. If you want to swallow back those words, let it be. But I heard her.
Context was what? In reference to which of the elections?
Is the register you use for the purpose of the district assembly election. What is its state? Then she said it's good enough. Now you would admit that she publicly argued more forcefully that her justification for a new voter register was bloated. Even if you do a register today, it is likely to be bloated because you can't go out there every day knowing dead people and taking them off the register. So long as the dead remain on a voter register, that register qualifies to be described as bloated. Now, she argued forcefully that facial recognition was significant and an IT additional imperative in the instrument before Parliament. I have seen no reference, no provision made for facial recognition template data
in the
CI. Biometric at the level of fingerprint is not the same thing as biometric at the level of facial recognition, where you require facial minutiae and how it is stored, how it is collected, how it is used, how it is disposed must be a matter governed by law, because that is confidential data of an identity of a person. But in this particular regulation before Parliament, no reference is made to it. So she has a credibility problem. If you told the people of Ghana that this was what you were going to do, I don't see it reflecting the instrument. Now, too, she must admit it. On the floor of Parliament, the instrument have had to be withdrawn 2 times. Defective, legally incompetent. Because when it came first, and it was rushed late, even when the Attorney General letter said pre-laying, it was late. So there was no consultation. The attachment of an annexure was missing. That's incompetence. And today,
accusing Jimenez of incompetence.
The Electoral Commission as an institution, that CI is their CI. So that institution responsible, I have problems with them of their lack of preparedness. In any case, Evans, we in the NDC have made our position known. we will not and we do not support the compilation of a new voter register. Two principal reasons. Technically, it's problematic. Timing is problematic. I mean, technically, you want to use June, July, August to collect data of 15 to 17 million Ghanaian people. That's not a banking sector. You are looking for data of customers. You are looking for a register. And a sine qua non in the conduct of every election is the availability of a credible voter register. Today, exactly 5 years ago, the MPP issued a statement saying that there was no enough stakeholder consultation. Today, they see nothing wrong with an imposition. But so you take, when the EC conducted limited voter register and took 1.2 million limited voters, they had capacity problems. That's why Elembele numbers had to move to some unacceptable figures. They had to themselves publicly admit it. Now, software, hardware, data center, we have since 2017 provided adequate funding. And when you say we shouldn't question their competence, I want to quote on authority that for 2017 through 2018, the EC could not utilize over 200 million of their budget and came back to Parliament to ring-fence it for them. Is that competence? You were given money.
They saved us money.
Even this year, it's not save of money. Get ready for an election. Even this year, between 2019 and 2020, as they appeared before our budget, they were making another case for an additional 400 million to be ring-fenced. That cannot be a mark of competence. When you knew, in all honesty, that you needed to retool your data center to enhance its capacity for the purpose of protecting the data, you needed to improve your hardware and software, but the timing and its technical viability, in my view, has a potential to throw this country into a constitutional chaos or constitutional crisis, and we will hold the chairperson responsible to it.
Do you expect the CI to pass?
The CI can pass if it is good law, but with defects, it cannot pass. As I speak to you, I've just sanctioned and approved a motion led by the Honorable Mahama Ayarga because we have found some conflict. You know, Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution deals with what you call in law the hierarchy of the laws, the Grundnorm, the Constitution, beyond its enactment. Beyond enactment, rules, orders, and regulations, beyond that common law and customary law. You cannot use a regulation to amend an act. You see, the regulation is like the grandson of a father or a mother, and you are now using the son to correct the father or mother's defects.
Is it in reference to the ID she require?
Yes, ID required. A number of persons have even misunderstood my position on this matter. And Evans, the right to vote and the right to register to vote is provided for under Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution. I am not entitled to enjoy that right at the pleasure of Jean Mensah or the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. And, right, it says I should be 18 years. I must be a citizen of Ghana. How do you establish that someone is a citizen of Ghana? Only through a passport. What gives birth to a passport? A birth certificate. So even if I bring my passport and you have cause to question my age, a legitimate reference primary document is a birth certificate. And there's a difference between a national ID card and a national ID card issued by the National Identification Authority. Your father or my father could have been issued an ID card in Ghana long ago. For the purpose of this, if you had that ID card, it's a reference document. I've seen an EC document, not official yet, where they themselves even refer to driver license. How come the driver license have no space in this particular CI? Is it that you cannot use your driver license as a primary reference document? So, yes, passport. How do you get a passport? Yes, national ID card. How do you get a national ID card? You demonstrate that you are a Ghanaian. National Identity Authority and the Electoral Commission cannot define my citizenship for me. Legitimate. They cannot. I'm a Ghanaian. And I'm entitled to the full benefits of all the provisions of the 1992 Constitution, including the guaranteed right. And I have a right that at 18 years, I think even as a country, this is not the first time I'm saying it, we should look forward to a day when any Ghanaian attaining 18 can with ease and comfort walk to the offices of the Electoral Commission and say, that's it. We should work towards that. Not this every other time I want a... And then look at the period. It is only Ghana that 7 to 8 months into an election, you don't know your electoral roll, you don't know the register you are using for the purpose of the election, and somebody is proud of it, that somebody is proud of it and says that no register, no vote. No register, no vote, you manage a chaos. You manage a constitutional crisis.
Reality check.
Yes.
You don't have the numbers to have your way. You could have your say. I guess document the motion, you signed it.
Yes.
Even the speaker has to decide whether to admit it or not.
Yes.
You are up against an impossible task here. A mountain you cannot surmount.
Interestingly, our democracy, we don't have a one-sided parliament. We have a two sides to the aisle. There is a political minority. Ghana is not narrowly the MPP and its thinking. There are citizens of Ghana, elders, senior citizens who are concerned. I'm sure you are not driving towards mobocracy or mob rule, that because they have the majority, they can, even in the face of the law, deal and dismiss, eliminate the concerns legitimately and lawfully raised by the political. They've been there before. They've been a minority, and our aspiration.
They fought you hard in 2016.
Absolutely, our aspiration is to constitute.
You still carried away.
Our aspiration is to constitute the majority party in government, but there must be respect for minority rights. But fundamentally, respect for fidelity of the law.
Is the courts an option for you as you pursue this matter, especially on the back of the...
I'm getting very, very reluctant with the court. I am not satisfied with the ruling of the Supreme Court in the Dr. Ayeni Martin Amidu case. And you know what the Supreme Court have simply said? Article 190 of the Constitution irrelevant. Your granddie, your grandmother, grandfather, you can constitute them tomorrow and say, come and do public service, because your experience as a critical human resource is still important. The Constitution provides a tenor for public office. Public office within the context of Article 190 of the Constitution. Go back to the memorandum that accompanied the Special Prosecutor Bill and other bills. Parliament was exercising its power in creating new and additional public service office. I've seen the Deputy Attorney General Labour to explain public office and public service. He would find no space. There is a public service. So what does simply mean, Evans? It means that your grandmother or my grandmother tomorrow can be appointed chief executive, and the reference will be the mockery of a Supreme Court ruling, regardless of
So on the back of that, your confidence has waned.
Fidelity to the law is important, not fidelity to the appointing authority or fidelity to please those appointing you. We will do what is needful, lawfully and legitimately. Let it be ignored. But the point is, we are stakeholders in the state called Ghana.
I hear you say that when it comes to the court, your confidence is waning.
It's eroding.
It's eroding.
Not absolute, not total, but I'm beginning to look back with some disappointment that we rely on this independent adjudicator.
You are asking the EC chairperson to come before Parliament. You told us yesterday that. What do you want her to come and do?
She must come to the Special Budget Committee. For instance, she's spending some money buying PPEs. As she came before the committee, I want to believe that I presided over, for the most part of their budget. There was no appropriation or provision for PPEs. So where did she get a mandate or authority from to be able to do PPEs? And then I make reference to PPEs, and then they attempt with failures to take me to cleaners without appreciating that their own Dr. Siribua was the first
categorically.
But you have the record.
And the voice
You
that we
have-
played showed that he actually didn't say that
you
they
have the
acquired.
You have the record.
That the
He
government had
he
acquired,
didn't-
that they will, the Electoral Commission will acquire.
They
not the
should
government.
stop hiding behind semantics. Is the money from her pocket or from Dr. Siribua's pocket? It's from government. So I did no wrong. I said no wrong. Where are they getting their funding from? From the consolidated fund, Government of Ghana money.
Let's wrap up by talking about 2020. One of the key things that must happen before then is complete your ticket, which is have a running mate to partner. How important is that in this grand scheme of winning an election?
Running mate, in my view, is complementarity to the flag bearer and presidential candidate. And President Mahama only have an obligation to consult with the elders, the leaders of the party, the parliamentary caucus, where he feels necessarily obliged to consult. But ultimately, winnability is at the core of his determination. Who partners me to win the crucial 2020 elections?
That's the bottom line for you.
Winnability.
Have you been consulted, the caucus? Or do you expect to?
I won't comment on it because I am part of a group working to support the flag bearer on this matter, and it's premature to be discussing it when we have not agreed as a
Some
a
say
group.
you will make a fine vice presidential candidate.
Not at all for this period. I know a lot of people exaggerate Haruna's and his ambition. I'm not as ambitious as people assume, trust me.
I find it hard to believe.
No, trust
Remember,
me.
I started listening to you by saying,
And
I remember you are Nooks.
And I say,
and where you sit today,
know,
I find it hard
know.
to believe. From Nooks president to minority leader, where next?
I will walk to where grace and Allah defines for me as a purpose in time and with Allah's time.
And this is
But certainly, erase it. I've heard people, Haruna is ambitious. In fact, I even heard people who said and swore that I would have picked a nomination form against President Mahama in 2016.
Let me ask you a direct question.
And,
are you or are you not interested in being his running mate?
Not at all. I do not fit into the geopolitical chemistry of the running
because you would
mate
come
for
from the
now.
north?
No, I won't answer that. I just say I don't fit into the geopolitical chemistry as defined by our group.
So you rule yourself out?
Certainly, I'm not. I'm not in contention
Are
for
you
running
interested
mate.
in being one day the president of this great republic?
I don't know about the future, and therefore I can't conjecture into the future. Leave it to Allah's grace.
Knowing you as a Nooks president and watching you on television, you seem to be somebody who knows,
I'm growing systematically.
has a plan and a projection.
No, I'm growing systematically. Leave that growth to grace. MP, minister, at least in parliament. You know, one of my quiet successes, I've been in cabinet consecutively and continuously for 8 years. That's a huge success. I understand policy. I'm now learning lawmaking. I'm now learning to lead as a minority leader. I certainly will have my eye on the ball. And thank you for coming.
I like the ball bit, actually. Which ball is that?
I say I have my eye on the ball.
on the presidential ball. Is that safe to assume that?
I say I'll have my eye on the ball in the foreseeable future.
Would you agree with those who say that the naming of Iranime has delayed a bit, with 5 months to go?
Not at all, particularly when the president the presidential candidate have himself shared with the public that but for COVID, I would have done A, B, and C. And I'm saying that I'm privy to some discussion and information, and it's unfair for me to be discussing.
What would it take for the party to regain power in 2020? Knowing that 1 million of people didn't turn up in 2016.
They will turn out this time.
Is that all you need?
Oh, we are working quietly. Post-banking crisis.
Is the base galvanized
Post-banking crisis, post-Galamsey, Akufo-Addo's narrow application of rule of law only to punish persons outside his political party, not investigating and dealing with those that you have pointed out in the media. I mean, just imagine out of Galamsey. I hear the gentleman is back at post and many other references
so your success
of
will
corruption.
be based on his weaknesses?
No.
Or on your record?
We have a proud record infrastructure development. Economy until COVID, they were not doing bad. But now you know their excuse, COVID, bad for COVID, bad for COVID. And now down tomorrow, that will be his mantra and song, bad for COVID.
Isn't it legitimate?
Whether he will find excuse in that, I worry. I mean, the Minister for Finance will have to hurry and be in a hurry to come back to Parliament with a revised budget. His budget for 2020 is gone, with the 2020 budget. Now, they create an impression that the fundamentals of the economy was only strong in the last 3 years. Does it take 3 years to build a formidable economy? I wonder. And therefore, they must come clear. And then, Nana Akufo-Addo and his economic brilliance. You know what they've done smartly? They create a banking sector crisis of up to 80 billion. They pay 20 billion. Then they postpone 50 billion to 2025. Where will Nana Addo be in 2025 or kind of Oriata? And then they say we are smart economists. Deal with your mess now. Don't postpone it to 2025 when we do not know where you would be. But we're optimistic of our success in the 2020 elections.
With John Mahama?
Sitting as rightly.
You know, this hasn't happened before when a president loses and
he
comes
made
back.
only one term. He would be persuading the people of Ghana for that one additional term. His will vindicate him at the poll. We just need to be united as a party, that we are. What I see today is a marked improvement as to when we're going into 2016 election. We have to take policing the electoral poll itself much more seriously. Our IT infrastructure will be defined, and we would match the New Patriotic Party to any machinations they intend to do as they did in the last elections.
Any machinations?
Don't you see their own member of parliament tell them that I'll spill the beans on what you did to win 2016?
But you were in power. That must have been an indictment on an incumbent party to allow an opposition party to use machinations to win an election.
Didn't you get curious? I'm simply saying we lost as much as 50 seats. Today I'm comfortable that 47 of those seats are within reach, and within my view as minority leader, that if we do things right and manage and reconcile,
you expect to be majority in 2021.
We will be.
And
certainly.
Just as we wrap up,
just some small arithmetic. Central region 8, Western 8 plus 7, Brown Hafu 8, 7, Northern region 5, Upper West 5 plus 3. Added to my numbers, even minus 6 gives me a good number.
Did you do electric maths in school? Elective maths, but we call it electric maths.
My maths have always been poor. You know what sacked me from the science class?
That was a good recital of the maths.
Pythagoras theorem drove me away from
just before we go on something that's live, you're going to be sitting on. Justice Honyanuga, has he got your endorsement? Because I know what happened when you was vetted. You had issues. Has he got your endorsement? I know the other three didn't have an issue, but has he got your endorsement as a minority?
I think the vetting emphasized one bit of him, that he was biased in his declaration of Nana Addo Dankwa for a second term bid. And that's unethical of a superior court judge. But to say that I'm sorry, we are human, would have to look at it and examine it. I say to say, a man of his stature, a respected chief, an appeal court judge who naturally was progressing, to say, I'm sorry, we only can say, don't repeat it again.
But what about the other three possible Supreme Court justices that you vetted, apart from Honyanuga?
Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, brilliant. I mean, she demonstrated that she has depth of the law, particularly criminal law, in her writing. I couldn't get more carried away when we put the question to her that is provocation a defense to assault? Her position was lucid and succinct to the law. That is what we expect them to do. Administer the law without fear or favor. Yoni Kulandi, naturally a legal success by Ghana standard, some regrettable development in his life that I know you police even in some of the things you heard between 1982 1984. 10 years have lapsed, a trauma that he hates recalling. But for that, he demonstrated that he would show fidelity to the law. And Justice Amadou got a lot of commendations from the Supreme Court and the judicial system itself as a diligent worker. But you know, I think that Ghanaians must begin to appreciate the character of the minority in the appointments committee. We look essentially at 4 issues: intellect, temperament, knowledge and experience, and then depth. And it is not as if we come with an intention to humiliate or to disgrace. Not at all. It can never be part of our thinking. We assess you on the basis of your competence to the job, but we'll tease out a few issues, but for the good of our country. And I do not think that even in matters of Supreme Court judges, we should stand divided as a country or as a parliament. Not my view when it comes to the law, except as I've emphasized, when we pass them, we expect them to demonstrate fidelity to the law and not fidelity to the appointing authority. They should let the rule of law in all its facets be respected. Nothing more, nothing less.
And that is the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. We're grateful that he took time off his busy schedule to talk to us. A lot to chew on. Enjoy the rest of your evening.